Hey guys, my name's Dale, and this is Think Fact. Death is scary, and I know most of you would agree. Though some people may find comfort in the idea of an afterlife, I do bet that most of you, if given the opportunity to live forever, would choose to do just that. I know I would. But would living forever be really all it's cut out to be? Is it actually a good thing that we die? If not for ourselves, but for society? Well, let's investigate. So there are two major ideas I want to cover in this video. What is bad about living forever, and what is good about death? So to start things off, let's talk about living forever. Now let's say that were possible. Not in a superhero sense, but in a genetic adaptation sense. Meaning that if you are not to eat or you are next to an explosion, you're gonna die. But you do have the capability to live forever if you maintain yourself. Just to make this more realistic and logical, but also touch base on what could potentially be possible one day. Well, of course, there is one obvious major problem: overpopulation. No death means a lot of people still being born and a lot of problems. Scientists say that we really only have enough resources on Earth to be able to maintain 10 billion people. And resources not just involving food, but clean water and oil and many other things. But the scary part about that is we might actually encounter this problem maybe in our lifetime. It is predicted that by the year 2100 we will reach a population on Earth of 10 billion people. Now this alone is a problem of its own, which is a major reason why we truly need to educate people on different types of birth control, whether that be through contraceptives or people just being educated to cognitively make the decision to have less children. Which I have a feeling is gonna be a little more difficult than it sounds. Oh, coitus. And I say there's a strong potential you could reach this because scientists have also predicted that the first person to live to be 150 years old is alive today. It could be you. Now beyond this, let's just look at you. Because you know, you're special. If you did manage to find a way to live forever, you're probably going to run into many problems, but there's one in particular that should be the most concerning to you, and that is about your brain's health. Just because you live forever doesn't mean your brain, your delicate brain, with its delicate brain cells, is necessarily up to snuff forever. Brains wear out, and there will come a point where you are simply not as sharp as you once were. Some of you probably already experiencing this. I'm experiencing this. That could be a concerning problem. And beyond that, we also have to look at storage. How much information is your brain really capable of containing? Our brains are estimated to have about 2.5 petabytes of storage. That's about 2.5 million gigabytes. And yeah, that's a lot of storage. Our brains are not like hard drives. You can't just take some information and drag it to the trash can, delete it, and then get that space back. Though scientists do say they may be able to delete memories one day, does that mean for a fact that you're gonna get that space back? I don't think the brain quite works that way. And there may come a time where you are simply overloaded. There are so much things you need to recall, so much things you know, that it is hard for you to be able to keep track of everything. And that could be an extremely difficult life to have to deal with. Then you need to look at our species itself, which is constantly adapting and potentially evolving. And if you're on Earth long enough for that, being that if you're living forever, there's a potential you'll be around during the change of humanity. You're going to be dealing with a completely new group of humans who could potentially be far superior to you due to genetic adaptations, through modification, or whatever reason, and you could be an obsolete human, or maybe even made into an exhibit. Not fun. And with all that said though, there is still one major problem that I really don't hear almost anybody ever talk about when it comes to the possibility of immortality, even though I do think some people think about it. What about the bad guys? The rich and powerful bad guys who have the capability to do a lot of damage in their single lifetime to people. Imagine if they could live forever. Think about it. If there was a serum that gave you the capability to live forever, who do you think is going to be first in line? Chances are you and I would probably never get access to it, but people with extreme amounts of power and wealth most likely would. Imagine if some of the most powerful and horrible people alive today got access to something like this. Imagine if all the horrible people throughout history who did absolutely devastating things to people throughout their entire lives to only be stopped by the very fact that death gets the final say. Imagine if death was avoidable for them. If immortality was achieved, we have to remember that the most horrible people alive today who are in power would be the first ones in line. But even with that, you also have the wonderful people who I know we all wish could still be with us today. But maybe that is the price we pay. Maybe it's a trade-off to some extent. So I say death is the great equalizer. It is truly the one thing that all of humanity has to pay up one day. And that's just a consequence of being alive. So does that mean death is good then? Well, every generation that comes to a close, a new one arises in its place. A whole new group of people with the opportunity to learn from the past and impact the present to leave a lasting image on the future. If people didn't die, would that not really be possible anymore? If great movie stars never died, would there ever be room for new stars to come up and make a name for themselves? Better than that, what if Beethoven, Albert Einstein, Alfred Hitchcock, Babe Ruth, Pablo Picasso, Shakespeare, what if they didn't die? Sure, they probably would have been able to continue their great works, but do you think they would have cast a shadow on new and rising talent, despite us wanting them to stay? New generations push ways for new ideas. The baby boomers are probably the greatest example in history of this, completely pushing an entirely new ideology and culture among pretty much the whole world to some extent. New music, new art, new forms of entertainment, new concepts, new everything. If the people of yesterday were able to live forever, would tomorrow truly be any different? So it is easy for us, especially those of us who are young, to not want to die. But if we don't accept the fact that we may need to one day let ourselves go in order to make room for a completely new generation of people, we won't let them be able to control their own destiny. So I want to leave you guys with probably what is my favorite quote of all time. We don't inherit the world from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Think about it. So with all that said, this video is a bit more philosophical than my others. Death is something I feel is very important to talk about, but it is so taboo for people. But I definitely feel it's something so important to talk about because it is truly one of the biggest moments in our life. I do personally believe that one day humans will find a way to live forever, especially with us studying all these animals that do have the capability to live almost indefinitely, and being able to understand how their genetics works, and if we can apply that to humans. So here is my question to you guys. Do you think humans should actually try to find a way for us to live forever? I do realize that this video kind of pushed its own argument towards a no, that we shouldn't. But that is just to get you guys thinking. If you guys do feel that we should, then please express your own thoughts on this, because that's exactly what I really want to hear. I only told a side of the story I feel not many people ever hear, and I feel it's very important to talk about. But I do understand that once I make immortality possible for me, I am making it possible for anybody out there. Potentially the people you would never want to have the ability to live forever. So think about it. So with all that said and done, my name's Dale, this is Think Fact, and remember, never stop learning, or thinking in this case. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, please subscribe to stay tuned for more. For more videos on the facts and thoughts that almost everybody missed. Next up we have the stage of ownership.